So you may have seen some of the news reports that much like the Democrat convention, the Republican convention is having its share of protesters, people coming to advocate for certain issues. Unfortunately, there's a subgroup of these people who feel as if it's okay to causing bodily harm in attacking people attending the convention, whether it be delegates or the media or guests, is an appropriate exercise of their First Amendment rights. The Connecticut delegation, for example, was dropped off at the wrong point outside of the security area, and as a result, they were attacked. A number of them had their credentials ripped off. An older attendee who's been to, I think they said 14 conventions, is now in a wheelchair as a result of the altercation, and a number of them were sprayed with ammonia. There's also been attacks where people were sprayed with pepper spray. So obviously this is not an acceptable means to get your point across. It's one thing to exercise your right to free speech, but attacking other people is totally not acceptable. So we are being warned to be very careful and make sure we're very diligent and not wear our credentials out in the street, because we could be an object for attack, I suppose you could say. One of the things actually I did on Monday on the way out of the convention is we went just outside the perimeter to talk to the Ron Paul representatives, and I just want to make certain I'm clear that these guys were totally respectful. We just wanted to talk to them about their views. They should not be confused with some of these other people that are doing inappropriate activities. Ron Paul is a doctor and a former Republican congressman from Texas, and he ran for president. You may recall that he was shut out of some of the debates at some point towards the end when I guess space was getting limited. Anyway, but I want you to come talk to these guys, and what you're going to see is we're going to talk to them about some of the issues they're trying to convince the delegates actually to change their vote. What you'll see here is me talking to the gentleman representing the Ron Paul demonstrators, as well as after that you're going to see the reaction from Jim Patty, who is one of the Rhode Island delegates from East Greenwich. So we're outside of the Excel Center now. The first day's activities are over, and we came over to talk to the Ron Paul representatives and supporters. I got the DVD in the mail.
Okay.
I did watch it, so tell me why is it that you're supporting Ron Paul?
We support Ron Paul because for decades now he's been in Congress, and for decades he's been standing up for the people. They call him Dr. No because he says no to the lobbyists. He says no to anything that's unconstitutional.
Okay.
There's many times where he's the only person who will not vote for something. He said no to the Patriot Act. He said no to the Iraq War.
Yeah.
He warned us about the consequences of the war. This whole time he warns us and lets us know that if we stick to American principles in the Constitution, that our country will be better off. We'll be more prosperous. We'll have less war and so forth. And in the same time, we occupy 130 countries, and that's draining us. We really want to defend our country and we want to be safe. We have to bring the troops home to protect our own borders and spend less money on the empire and more money at home, and so forth.
So tell me a little bit about the process. I know that the campaign felt like he was shut out of some debates. What do you feel should have been Ron Paul's or Dr. Paul's opportunity?
Like in Nevada, for instance, there were more Ron Paul Republicans that showed up to the convention than the Republicans who were running the party.
Okay.
And so they just shut it down. And so when they did that, that meant that Ron Paul wouldn't win the delegates. Ron Paul got second place, McCain got third in Nevada in the general primary. And so what that led to is that they robbed Ron Paul of the delegates that he would have gotten. And then the same thing happened in Louisiana, Washington, South Carolina, and other states all across the nation.
So what is the Ron Paul group going to be doing? I know they're going to have a group here or at the RNC to talk about Ron Paul. But what are your plans besides standing here?
Well, Ron Paul was not invited to speak at the convention. And like what happened in Nevada and South Carolina and other places where he actually spoke, the delegates were swayed because they got to see him one-on-one. They believed what he said. They know he's telling the truth. And for his book, The Revolution of Manifesto, and it's truth is treason in the empire of lies. And it's true. When you let Ron Paul speak, you're gonna convince people, and that's what they were afraid of. So he had to hold his own convention, the Ron Paul Rally, which is
Tell me, what was the name of the book?
The Revolution of Manifesto.
tell me about, I noticed that the Expulse Revolution, if we could get a shot of the shirt over here if you don't mind. Tell me about the reverse love. We've seen some of that. I know here from Rhode Island we had some signs over our overpasses that had that on there. Tell me a little bit about what that means.
Okay, the revolution, it was a guy in Nevada, I believe, right?
Arizona.
Arizona.
Ernest Hancock is the guy's name. Phoenix is freedom. He made the shirts and he would point this.
Revolutions in the past have generally been violent and destructive. This revolution, the revolution that is being born in America, the Campaign for Liberty as it is now, is one of peace, one that we don't want violent revolt. We want the people to wake up, we want the people to realize that there is a lot of corruption and that the people can take their country back, and peacefully through, this idea here of love.
So in November, you planning on writing in Ron Paul's name for president?
I'm not going to vote for the lesser of two evils. I will write in Ron Paul if I have to. But if Ron Paul gets elected at the convention, if delegates like you were able to abstain from voting in the first round, like Lincoln and other delegates or other presidents who've got elected in the past, that's the reason why, because that's why we have a republic. We have these steps and these processes. This is not McCain's convention. This is the people's convention. You represent your area. And like those banners over the freeway and over the overpasses, those are representative of your area. So you have to take it into your own heart to represent your area, and that's what you guys are for. Not to vote for who they say that you're not here to coronate McCain. You're here to represent your area. And so we're hoping that, like those Nevada delegates, that they'll represent their area. So,
Great.
yeah.
All right, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time. Good luck.
Yeah. And
That's right. So we're here with Jim Patty from East Greenwich, who is also a McCain delegate from Rhode Island, 2nd Congressional District. And we just got finished talking with the Ron Paul delegates. You'll see a bit of that we captured on camera, but we had an extended conversation with them that wasn't on camera. And I just want to get Jim's reaction to the conversation because it got pretty colorful.
You have to admire the passion of the Ron Paul supporters. They're still going after it months after it's become clear that Ron Paul will not be the Republican nominee. I question them on why they are supporting him, even though it's very clear that John McCain will be the standard bearer of the party, and why specifically they're not advocating Ron Paul to be an independent candidate and try to get ballot access as a third party candidate. They seem to support, his support draws from a lot of different factions. It's very clear that 9/11 conspiracy theorists combined with isolationists and strict constitutionalists are all coming together under this Ron Paul umbrella. And it's very interesting. It's a lot of passion. It'll be interesting to see what Ron Paul does. He's going to have another event here in Minneapolis, St. Paul, tomorrow night to try to rally his base. They don't refer to him as Paul. They refer to him as Ron Paul. And it's a little creepy, a little cult of personality-ish, a little cultish. So I don't think we'll be visiting them again.
All right. Thank you, Jim.